give a round of applause to our camera guy, production guy, Mr. Clayton Lindley. What's up, man? How you guys doing? Nice to see you. Let me know when you're ready. Alrighty, how's everybody doing tonight? Doing good? A little chilly. We got one person wearing sandals in here, and it's pretty cold outside. Walking up like it's freezing. Yep, she's like, I gotta keep them warm. You got the baby blanket over here. No, I'm just kidding. Well, thank you guys for all coming out tonight. I know it's a Thursday night. Also, it's Waste Management Week, too, as well. So I know you guys could be out partying, having a great time. There's concerts going on, a lot of other crazy stuff, but you're here tonight, so I appreciate you guys all for showing up. A lot of you new faces. For some of you guys that don't know who we are, myself is Blake Hahn. I'm founder and co-founder with Michael. We call him Michael Law with Ideal. What we've created and what we're doing with Ideal is we've created structured systems and processes to help you master your habits so you can master your life in all areas of your life. Not just in business, but in your personal life. And we utilize that through a book and a tool and also an app that's going to be being released. You guys are going to see some QR code placements and things around here. Please scan those. Some of them are to the Master Your Habits, Master Your Life 12-week, 90-day program. You guys are going to see these ones up here. You guys scan this one. Please go join the app waitlist. We are launching the app in March, and it will be launched at the Secret Knock event March 17th. So very excited about that. But you guys will see some of these QR codes and everything around. Also, just a couple ground rules. Bathrooms over here for some of the new people that just walked in. There's waters in the back if you guys need any waters. And if you guys need to step outside to either take a call or anything, you guys can step outside in the back. But again, thank you guys for all coming out tonight. We're really excited. We're just getting started with Ideal and launching and really changing people's lives. The gentleman that came out today, he flew in today at 9:30 this morning. One thing I could tell you about this guy is I gotta have some, he's a jokester. Who's met James Dixon so far in here? Look at this guy. He's over here. He's like, yeah, I already know he's a jokester. So you guys are going to know he's fun. He likes to have fun. You guys will get to know him a lot. Please come and shake his hand and get to meet him when we go on break and everything. He's got an amazing story and amazing background. But all to say is this guy flew in at 9:30 this morning. We talked to him last week, and we asked if he could come out to our event. And within just 2 seconds, he said, yes, I'll do that for you. Now, what he was sharing with me this morning at breakfast was he pulls up his phone, and he starts sliding through, and he's all, you see that name at the top? What does that say? And it says Tony Robbins. And he starts scrolling, and I'm like, wow, okay, so you guys are talking a lot. And then then he shows me the message that says, hey, man, I'm heading out to an island. This was just 2 days ago. I would love for you to come on out with me. And he was supposed to fly out today. And what did you tell Tony Robbins?
I made a commitment to be here with these guys.
So my thing is for him, and this is hitting deep for us and everything because it just shows a lot, but for him to stay making the commitment when Tony Robbins said he'd fly him out to an island to come join him, and sometimes just think to yourself, what would you really do? But that tells a lot about this man and who he is and his character and what he's really doing with us. So I just want to say thank you for coming out, flying out, and turning down an opportunity that obviously could maybe take you to a whole nother level within your life or whatever you're doing. So I'm really thankful for having you here tonight. Thank you for flying out. And not only that, guys, this guy gets paid $30,000 to $60,000 every time he goes and speaks. And he came out here and did this for free for us. So I want you guys to know what he's being paid to do and the value and what you guys are going to get from him tonight is worth $30,000 to $60,000 plus and upwards. And he flew out here for us tonight. He loves what we're doing with Ideal. He's getting behind us with Ideal, and we're all just getting started together. So I want to bring up the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. James Dixon.
I'm going to use the chair for an example for a moment. So first of all, it's an honor to be here. You know, there were so many different times and places I could have been somewhere. But then there were destiny moments, places you have to be. This was a destined moment. It's not by accident we're together. We're in this place for something meaningful. I've been up since about 2 this morning. Had to get on a plane, fly in, and had a layover and all this stuff to get here, but I got here, and the important thing that for me, after all that I've done, is to pour out something from the heart to the heart. So if you will with me, let me just give you a little bit of background. As he was giving my intro, actually, Michael and these guys had me kind of as this journey has gone for me. I worked in a factory for General Motors. And as I was working for General Motors, I was working on a line. 17 miles a night I traveled back and forth on a line, working, putting on parts, building trucks. I was building trucks, but my purpose was really to be building people. That's what I was born for. But as I was working there, I just kept doing it because it was safe. I got six-figure income. I became a team leader. I had people that reported to me. I could sit down all night. I could do absolutely nothing, lose brain cells, lose sound, some hearing on my right side because they had a rule that one ear had to be exposed and one ear had to be covered. So I'm sitting there doing this, and I'm thinking I'm doing a great thing. I had six-figure income. I'm working, but I'm missing everything my children are doing because I work second shift. And so I was selling my whole future for six figures. What changed? I had been doing something on the side, and there had been different crumbs across the course of my life that was leading me to an opportunity. I just couldn't see it. First opportunity that was ever given to me was in a chair. And the reason why I say it was in a chair, I'm talking about a wheelchair. You see, when I was born, one leg was shorter than the other. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, and so at 3 months of age, I had my first surgery. Every 6 months until I was 11, I had a surgery. I had 33 surgeries leading up to when I turned 11. The chair was going to confine me or even define me because it was all I was known by. Everybody knew me by as the crippled child on the porch with my grandmother. And I lived with my grandmother because my mother was only 18 when she had me, and I was a kid with disabilities, and she couldn't take on the responsibility. And my father only had one thing to say: there's no way I could make a cripple. You can't be mine. We're the same height. We both have freckles. I look like him. There's no way that you could say that I'm not his, but he couldn't identify with the idea that something from him could come out imperfect. My grandmother had a different view, though. That no matter how many flaws you might think you have, you're designed perfectly in the eyes of God, just as you are. And so she began to try to build me. But the first thing I would have to do is realize that the chair was an opportunity. Because while I was in the wheelchair, I had learned a point where I could lean back, make wheelies, I could do all kind of things. I have fun in it. I could put the brakes on one side, spin it around. I could make it home. And that's the one thing about being confined, is that you can get comfortable by being confined. And then you get defined by that comfortability until the point that that's all you've had, because every other muscle is atrophied. You lose the ability to get up. You lose the desire to get up because it's so comfy. But there was something about being in the chair that wasn't comfortable. You see, every time they did a surgery for me, I thought this was going to lead to another opportunity. I'd get healthy, I'd get stronger. And so here it is. After the surgery, I do the rehab, and I'm like, man, finally I'll start walking. That wasn't happening. I ended up doing one more surgery, but this surgery took me from Indiana, where I was born, to Chicago, where the children's hospital was. It's called Shriners. It was my chance to get out of the chair. So here I am. Grandma said, baby, they're saying after your surgery, you won't be in the chair anymore. And my thought was that if I'm in this chair, though, if that's it, that's all I've ever known, I'm going to get out of it. But then there's a second thought, right? It's all I've ever known. And sometimes we get so comfortable with what we've always known, we get afraid to try something. That's why when they come to you and they say, listen, there are some habits you got to break. There are some times you're going to have to invest in yourself, and you go, I've never done that before. Yes, you have. You've gone to school and you've had people year after year tell you what to think and believe, and only for you to get out here and realize they didn't equip you with the skills for you to make it. He said, I went to college, I invested money into it for a whole semester, 2 semesters, sometimes 4. Someone got a master's, and you realize I invested in myself, and then I got out here and it didn't do it. Because what they could not give you is that habit-forming skill set that leads to winning. I had perfected going to rehab. I had perfected going right back to the chair. And so as a result of it, when they gave me the opportunity to get out of it, I said no. because this is home now. And they were like, James, we're going to do a surgery, one more. And they did not tell me that they were going to amputate my right leg. And so I sit here before you today as an amputee, and this was a source of shame. It's the very thing that my father denied my existence for. It's the very thing that kept me in the wheelchair, the limitations of my leg. And they told me that they were going to bring me to the hospital, but they never told me they were going to leave me with less parts when I left. Sometimes in developing who you need to become, they have to cut away some things that you've grown accustomed to. There are some habits that you've developed that are detrimental to your future. Sometimes it's self-sabotaging things. You don't even realize that you've created these habits. Sometimes it's the thought process. For me, it was that you have this disability. Boy, you're born a cripple, you'll be a cripple. For somebody else, it's like, because you're black, you will never make it because white man is holding you down. And so you start to believe that there's multiple races when there's only one race, it's human. Everything else is ethnicity and culture. And so when you start to believe something, it becomes who you are. And so you have to challenge that and say that just because my father was limited by something doesn't mean I have to. Habits become who you are. And for me, it was a habit to get into the chair because it was comfortable. And so I get to the hospital and they tell me, they pull me aside, my mom and dad come into a room with me. And they tell me that I'm going to have to stay at this hospital. It wasn't a big deal to be left in the hospital because it was all I ever know. I've gone through the process of going to the hospital, having a surgery, waiting for rehab, getting picked up, and then going back. So I was accustomed to it. But this is the first time they took me from Indiana to Chicago, and they left me. Before, I always had grandma there for me. It's like a safety blanket. She was always there to encourage me and provide me with a sense of self when no one else was there for me. And so she would always make it comfortable for me to get into my chair. Here's the thing. When I got to the Shriners, they put me into a room, and I'm going to tell you about something that changed my whole life. In my room, I had two roommates. I had a kid named Matt and a kid named Gilbert. Matt was on this side of me, Gilbert on the other. Matt was the first kid I'd ever seen with a loving set of parents, mom and dad there absolutely every day. He was 8 years of age and he was still in an incubator. And by being in the incubator, his parents would touch him through gloves, and they said he wasn't even supposed to live this long. Every day that Matt had was a blessing and a miracle because he was not supposed to be able to live with his disabilities. Yet he had the most gregarious, outgoing personality. He was in a box, but he wasn't confined by that box. His personality was huge. I enjoyed talking to him absolutely every day. From my chair, I sit there and talk to him. When I got into bed, he was beside me and I could talk to him, and he talked back. And we had all this interaction, but on the other side, we had a kid who was 12. He's the oldest in the room. His name is Gilbert. See, Gilbert had an accident in the projects called Cabrini Green in Chicago. Gilbert had been thrown off of a top floor and it left him paralyzed from the neck down. So Gilbert was the oldest, and in order for us to be able to communicate with each other, they had put a mirror on the ceiling. And so in the mirror, when he's laying on his back, as he always does, we're able to talk, and he could hear what Matt said sometimes. Sometimes he couldn't, so I'd repeat what Matt said, and I was the middleman. Sometimes you get caught in the middle between two different folks and stuff, and you got to translate stuff. Now, watch. There are times in your life where you've got two different people giving you two different thoughts, and oftentimes you have two different coaches that are competing for your attention, and you don't know which one it is. One of them will sometimes confine you with what they say, and the other ones will paralyze you. You've got to find and assign yourself to the right people, so when you get the ideal coach, you got the right person giving you the right habits so that you're not in a box of opinions of what didn't work, nor are you paralyzed with the concept of what you can't do. This is about developing habits that are for winners. I'm laying in the bed, I'm talking to them, I'm communicating, and I realized that was already being given the gifts that God had for me from a bed. That I could talk with one person that was a white kid in a box, and I got to a black kid who had been thrown out of the balcony. And I could communicate both with people no matter where they are, whether you're confined or you're defined by what you can't do. And yet I didn't realize that was the first spark God gave trying to show me that I had a destiny. Gilbert, we talk all night long, right? Have conversations. One day, though, Matt gets rolled out to go to surgery. We'll see you later, buddy. Okay. He's gone. A couple hours goes by, and his parents come in, and they thank us for being friends with Matt. I figured maybe he's still just delayed in the moment. Matt will be back. Matt never did come back. His mom and dad left us with the teddy bears that they'd bought for their son, and they thanked us for being his friend every day of his life. And so here I was, confined by the idea that kids die, and I'd never seen that before. My friend, the kid who had all this joy, is gone. Now, what do I do with that? Do I waste the fact that I had that relationship, or do I allow that to become a fuel in my life? We have too many things that happen in our lives where people come in and they try to share with us or share their joy or leave you with something, and we walk away with it. While I'm talking to you, somebody might be thinking about, did I turn the lights off, or do I have to go? I haven't eaten today. I've got other stuff. Man, but if you can pay attention to the things that I'm giving you, I promise you, I will instill something in you that will last the rest of your life. Matt died after leaving the room, and we were left with a teddy bear that defined who he was. I still have that bear. When he left, I was afraid because I never had seen anybody die, and the idea of my friends not coming back, and there was no one there to comfort me. I'm 11 and this happened, and I'm afraid. No mother, no father, no grandmother, just me and Gilbert, and a nurse that comes in to check to see how we're doing. There's a problem that happens in our lives. Oftentimes, we have tragedy that happens, and we mark our lives by a tragedy. Someone dies that was close to us. Someone dies that was meaningful, and we stop caring. We stop giving. We stop trying. We stop connecting. You got to open yourself up, and you got to leave the grave, because the one thing about the grave is that it's always going to be there. The way that we are supposed to respond to tragedy is I use that as fuel to get me to my next destination. If you've had your heart broken, if you've got some things going on, if you felt like throwing in the towel yourself, you got to realize the towel should never be thrown in. Use that towel to wipe the sweat off your brow and try one more round. All of us will go through tragedy, but it will not stop you unless you stop. This kid's life was now sacrificed for me to grow from something. He died so that he could live something inside of me, so I could be a spark plug and share who his story is, and so that his name never died. But I would have to get off the bed my damn self. But what about Gilbert? I'm going through it. I know he is too. I'm talking to him through the mirror. And then one day he gets really excited and he said, "James, do you know my mom's coming?" And I said, "Oh man, that's good." Because neither one of us have seen our family, and we've been in the hospital for some time. He said, "My mom's finally coming, man. I'm so excited." I saw them brush his hair and prepare him and all that stuff, and he was so excited. Mom's finally coming. And so she finally shows up, and as she's coming in, I see his excitement. I'm watching in the mirror on the ceiling. And they go ahead and they grab and they close the curtain to give privacy. But what kind of privacy is it if there's a mirror on the ceiling? So I'm watching, and his mom does this. She goes, "Gil, I came to talk to you. This is what I got. I can't do it no more. You see, I got to live my life too." And they said, "You ain't going to walk no more, no way." You see, baby, I got to live my life. I can't come out here all the time and see how you're doing. I can't spend my whole life coming out here trying to talk to you and all that stuff or take you home. What am I going to do with you? You can't even do anything. You're paralyzed, baby. There's nothing I can do. All it's going to do is waste my time. I ain't going to be able to go nowhere. I ain't going to be confined because you can't do nothing. So, baby, I'm just letting you know now, this is the last time I'm coming. These people going to take care of you from here. Gilbert starts to call out for his mom as she turns to walk away. She pushes through the curtain. She's gone. And he's begging her, Mama, please. I won't be bad no more. Please, please. And the only thing that works on him is his mouth, his head, and he starts trying to hold his breath to take his life. He's doing everything he could because he had lost his will to live. And I'm laying there, I'm watching all of this, and I'm like, you okay? And he won't communicate. And I've learned that a lot of time that happens in the way that we deal business with each other. We get you into a room, we're trying to talk to you, find out what your why is so we can motivate you. Who have you been hanging around? Make sure you're with the right people. And then you get upset about something. Instead of communicating, you shut down because somebody else walked out of your life, not realizing that there's somebody in the same situation willing to stay there with you and is begging you and sees you as you really are through the mirror, that you still got value, but you won't be open because of what somebody else has done. And so you turn and walk away and think that everybody's done. You shut down because one person walked away. Because the business that bad, the last coach didn't fulfill things. Oh, it costs too much. We start getting these wrong beliefs and ideas. So let me tell you what happens. One of the nurses who didn't have children, who had been taking care of Gilbert every day, decided that if this boy doesn't have a mama and I can't have kids, I will be his mother. The mom walked out, a nurse walked in, and the nurse was going to be a better mom than he had ever had. You never know that when some things leave your life, what can open up to make your life better. But you got to be willing to embrace and learn something. If somebody challenges you and pushes you to face something that you didn't want to face, it's not because they're trying to embarrass you, but to pull out something that's better on the inside of you. Sometimes your coach can see what's locked in that you won't let out. But if that thing ever gets on, if you ever get a view of what you can be, if he would have looked in the mirror and saw that there was more love around him than he's ever had in his life, her leaving, he would have said, good riddance. But he couldn't because he was emotionally tied to something that wasn't tied to him. But I'm still there. And I've got two things that have happened. Kids die or you get abandoned. And my mom and dad dropped me off and I don't have my grandmother around me. The surgery happens. I come out of surgery. And without them telling me, they had taken my leg. My leg was short on one side. There was so much scar tissue. It wasn't effective. It was dying. But I was attached to it. It was attached to me, and I didn't want to lose it because it was all I've ever known. Sometimes we can be so connected to what we were that we don't realize what we can be. When the nurse came in, was trying to get me to calm down, I am hurt and offended that they have taken my leg, and there's nobody to support me, nobody to comfort me, nobody explained to me that I'm not going to die. My parents haven't abandoned me. There's somebody that cares about me, and the loss of my limb opened me up to become the best man that I could become. I just can't see it because I'm still stuck in the immature version of me at 11. Now at 50, I look back, and the best gift God gave me was to take that leg from me. Because I never would have got out of the chair. I would never have been here. I would have never understood that I needed to live a life big enough for Matt. I needed to walk long enough for Gilbert. And I needed to speak loud enough for you to hear me. The opportunity. I'm sitting there and the nurse is talking to me. She's like, James, I know you're upset at the loss of your leg, but listen to me. You're going to walk. You're going to run. Do you like basketball? And I'm like, yeah, I do. She said, one day you'll play basketball. You'll do all these things. And I started listening to her and I started believing it. And in just that moment, my mom shows up after the amputation. She walks in. She gets in there. And she was upset about one thing, and it goes, the fact that she had heard I had a bad attitude towards everybody the moment I found out my leg was taken. So she came to correct me or check me for my attitude. And she walks in as a disciplinarian, not as a nurturer, and she sees the nurse telling me what I can be. She looks at me and she was like, "You listening to this?" And she looks at the nurse and says, "Don't give my son false hope." You see, he's never done anything. You talking about this boy running when he has never ran before. You talking about him walking, he ain't ever taken no steps before. He's 11, he ain't ever done all that. The boy's been a cripple, the boy will be a cripple. He better understand he's a cripple. You're gonna have to use your mind. You don't have a body to use. And she tells me that, and I look back at the nurse, and my mom said, "Look at me, I'm your mom." So I turn, I look back at my mom, and she says, "Say that you're a cripple." And I look back at the nurse, and my mom slapped me and said, "Say it." And I said, "I'm a cripple," and I gave up. I gave up everything because I was afraid of her, but I was also afraid of losing her. What if she leaves me like Gil's mom? I'm sitting there, and there's a witness to it. My man is looking up, and he sees in the mirror that my mom is making me say that I'm a cripple. And I'm saying to you right now, there are people who are in your life that still ring in your head long after you should have evicted them out of your mind. There are limiting people and limiting voices. If you're the type of person that somebody compliments you and you look away, whoever it is that did that to you, that made you believe that you can't receive a positive word, you got to evict them out of your house and life and mind right now. I don't care if it was mom, it was dad, if it was a cousin, if it was an ex, if it was a friend, whoever it is that tried to brand you with something that doesn't fit, they have to go. There are habits you have to develop about who you will be. And one of them is getting rid of a negative self-image. Just because you haven't done some things yet doesn't mean you won't. My resume says I'll never walk, I'll never run, I'll never play basketball. But the same word resume is the same as the word resume in letters. Whatever it is that it was God's intention for you to become, He can put on play, and you can pick up with the original design for you. You just didn't realize that was the plan all along. And so me sitting there, I needed a higher authority to build me up again. And when I needed it, it showed up in the personage of my grandmother. You see, she lived in Anderson, Indiana. She came to Chicago, Illinois, and she couldn't read or write and didn't have a driver's license, could not drive or any of those things. She got on a Greyhound, drove all the way, the road all the way there, got there, and had to face all kind of insecurities in order to get there to see about her baby. She had to admit to somebody, "I can't read. Can you make sure I get there? I don't have a way of signing stuff. Can you make sure we do this?" She had to go through the idea of going to a place she'd never been before, go through Chicago with no security by herself in her 80s. Get there so she could see about her baby. Because she had to go correct what her daughter had done and said to me, "You are not a cripple. You're a Superman. Baby, you just got to overcome your kryptonite. Whatever it is that you are dealing with, you got to realize that the strength in you is greater than the things that come against you. That's why I need you to understand that whatever you face must face you. But in order to face it, you got to realize there is a greater strength that you have than you've ever seen on display. And it wouldn't come out if you weren't putting under pressure. If my mom doesn't slap me and tell me I couldn't, my grandmother doesn't show up to tell me I could, if she doesn't tell me I could, I don't get up and try rehab. I don't get the mindset to get up and go. And so I got a basketball scholarship to go to college. I did all those things. Everything she said I wouldn't be, I began. And then I learned something. You cannot of proving somebody wrong. Because the fuel of anger eats up more than just, it eats up your inside. It eats up your mindset. Prove them wrong is to make them your icon, make them an idol, to make them more important than the image that God gave you about you. proving somebody wrong, you'll never get that validation. You know, when I got my scholarship, I came home, I said, look, I got a basketball scholarship. I did this, I proved. She never said, I'm sorry. She never apologized. So the very validation I was looking for, I never would have got if I were only focused on the people with the idea of proving them wrong. You know what you have to do? Stop worrying about trying to prove people wrong and just prove yourself right. That means you got to get those habits and be able to speak, write down goals and chase those things down like it's oxygen, like I need it for my second win. And if you can get to your second win, you can get to your WIN. But you got to get to the second win. That means you got to fatigue all that stuff you used to know and be willing to open up and get the disciplines and rely on techniques that work. You got to have it, the ideal understanding of what really is necessary for you to go from one level to the next. How do I know it works? Because I had to let go of the chair to grab my opportunities. I had to let go of the idea that they said I was a cripple and realize that I am not defined by what I can't do. I am not the sum of my parts. I'm more than that. I could lose every part of me and still have more value. That every part of who I am is not defined by the physique. It is defined by the mindset. It's defined by the spirit of a man. What you are is unbeatable if you can ever uncap. When I was working at the factory, going there every day, I missed everything for security. When the security blanket was taken off, I had to hustle, I had to grind. And then I looked back over my life, what do I have if I don't have that job? I had the same skill set that was being instilled in me from childhood. The ability to speak to people who are in the worst of situations, confined in the box of concepts, or paralyzed with fear, with people who will walk away from you when you need them. Learning to be able to hear the voice of sound judgment, even if someone tries to slap bad things into you. You have a choice. I mentioned this earlier to a group, and I mentioned it now. I use Superman, so I'm going to use the same analogy in this way. There is no difference between a superhero and a villain. Both of them have superpowers, super abilities. The difference is, one will punish everybody for what was done to him. That's the reason why some people won't even allow you in their life. They become toxic and all this stuff because they want to punish everybody for what somebody else did. And no one should have to pay the tax for a bill they weren't involved with. I didn't have anything to do with the real estate deal you were list in. If it didn't work out, maybe it was the wrong neighborhood. Maybe they didn't have the value you placed on it. This place here is different. Maybe it can be like this. Realize that the villain who always wants to make people pay could have made a different decision. They could have said that I realized that what happened to me doesn't have to happen to anybody else. And for that reason, I'll fight for other people. When you're willing to fight for other people, you become a symbol of something. You become a symbol of hope. You become an inspiration. When I began to tell my story about what I went through, I started going to the hospitals. And I would sit one-on-one with a 9-year-old boy named Jeremiah that had cancer. And then by the time he turned 10, they had to take his leg. And I was there to talk to him and build him up. I had another guy who was transitioning. He was dying because he was a veteran. And I'm at the VA hospital. And he didn't want to die alone. And he didn't want to die not whole. I said, what do you mean? He said, they took my leg and they said because I can't keep doing dialysis, they tried to send me home, but I don't have a family. And he said, the only thing I wish I could have had my leg, I want to die whole. I don't want to die and not have it. So I was like, hey, is there any way that he can get his leg? And they were like, no. So I made some more calls and I got a process to put one together. And I said, I don't care what it takes, man. If I got to pay it out of my own pocket, But they ended up donating a leg, and we ended up bringing it to him. And it's on my Instagram, you'll see. And he was like, you know, I'm a Harley fan, so I even went by the Harley store, got a sticker, put the sticker on it, and put it on him. And when we put the leg on him, I shook his hand. He says, thank you. People came in from on the outside and clapped for him, and his thank you were his last words. Man's dreams fulfilled, wishes granted. I also end up in a situation where death is still a reality. I was talking to a guy named Pat who had lost everything. And so he'd take a bunch of pills, went outside, shot himself. When he shot himself, he survived it because it was so cold, he froze out there, but it kept him alive. The ambulance gets there, they take him to the hospital, and the frostbite had destroyed his fingers and his legs. And so here it is, the bullet did not hit his brain, but it did affect his vision, it affected everything, but they could not put him under to do the amputations because of the pills. So he had to remain wide awake while they amputated both legs. He had to just grin and bear it. And so then they say, James, can you go talk to him? I go in and talk to him. And he's got phantoms. Does anybody know what phantom is? You see, a phantom pain is they take the legs off and you still feel pain in them. It's so strong in the mind that you can't get rid of the fact that I've got a cramp even though you don't have a leg. So one of the things that we do to fix that is we go grab a mirror and we place a mirror between your legs, and they'll put a prosthetic on one side and let you look to the side. And what happens in the mirror? Both legs appear in the mirror. By seeing both legs in the mirror, the mind relaxes and allows you to get rid of the pain. What does that teach us? That whatever it is that you have gone through, it's all mental and can be addressed. But in order to address it, the mind must see it, and then the eyes see it, and then you go out and achieve it. All of a sudden, both legs are back. That means in an ideal setting, you can see things that no one else saw because it gives you a mirror to see what's possible. But in order to do so, you got to be able to willing to look differently. You have to try concepts that you hadn't heard of in order to get rid of phantoms. And the thing about phantom is not real. Most of us are limited or frozen with our decision making because of some phantom fear. I don't know if I put this money out here, what if my car breaks down? If I put this money out here, if you live in fear, you'll never know freedom. Freedom comes. You chase your passion, money will follow you. I promise you. It seeks out its own level. People will follow where there's a passion. I'm going here, there, working with these people. And what happens? A company reaches out and says, can you come speak to us? I speak to them. What happens? Pandemic happens. I'm there speaking to a small group and we're locked in. But so are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And because they are in the same hotel, some of the guys come down and they come hear this guy speak for $125. That's what they paid me to go to Pittsburgh to speak to about 1,000 people. That's all they paid me. But I spoke from my heart, not for the fee. Just so happened more people heard me. My first gig went for $125. Second, paid me much more than that. But I thought it was a whole lot to get $2,000 because I didn't understand my potential. But God has shown me that if you step out in faith and do the right thing, I will honor it. I only started the YouTube channel because when I went to Jeremiah, when I went to Pat, when I went to these guys, I couldn't be everywhere one time. So we started the channel where I can make videos and keep them motivated so that they can be encouraged until I could get to them again. Listen to the channel. And so we came up with the term absolute motivation, motivation that moves you. Because it was about getting them to move again, believe again, get out the chair, all those things. And next thing I know, everybody's listening to it because I went after my passion and I found that there was a crowd waiting for it. My opportunity came because I got out of the chair. But in order to get me to be consistent and to be passionate and be real, someone laid down their life. And someone watched somebody walk out my life. And what I learned from that is that you've got to take advantage of people, the time that you have with people while you have it, because tomorrow's not promised. I don't even have a sales pitch to say, hey, we're offering this, don't do this. I don't do that, but I can tell you this. If you've ever contemplated quitting this program, quitting the ideal setting, you're quitting on yourself. The only thing you need to quit is stop quitting. Quit quitting. Stop doing the quitting habits. Stop setting yourself up for failure. Trust the process. You are learning, you are growing, and I promise you, proximity will bring you more than what you can imagine. Let me tell you what proximity did. It got me not to spend time with someone that even if they could advance me, this was advancing me. Because this fed my house. This feeds me because I get to meet you. I get to instill in you. I get to pass along something to you to try to impact your life for the rest of your life. I hope you always remember Matt, Gilbert, James, the fact that from an infancy, God was already showing me what I could be. I just didn't know it. Here's the thing. Sometimes your blessings will come delayed. I did all that work with people one-on-one, and I became known as an amputee advocate. Any of you guys ever watch The Bachelor, Bachelorette? There's a guy there named Cam Ayala that was on season 6, season 5, something like that. There's only 2 of them, but he was on Hannah's season. And because I've been working with people, I get a phone call and they say, hey, listen, we have a guy that's on The Bachelor that's going to lose his leg. They're wondering if you have time to mentor him. So ABC reaches out and I end up meeting Cam Ayala. I meet him and he said that they're going to take my leg because I have lymphedema and there's nothing they can do. They're going to take it above the knee and I don't think I can handle it. And I'm uniquely designed to be able to mentor him through every part of the process because I now have 30 plus years of experience. And I started pouring into him. 2 weeks after losing his leg, I had him at Rice University doing ups and backs on one leg with crutches. They're like, man, why you got him out there? Because if he stays in that bed, if he stays in that chair, he will have made a choice. But now they said, but it's going to take a long time for him to be able to walk or run. 2 months later, we had a leg on him. 3 months later, we were running. 5 months later, he climbed his first mountain. The only reason why he did it is because he had a coach in his life that didn't tell him he couldn't do it. But I told him he could do it because I had done it. I was ideally designed to be able to be in his life for just a moment like that. Next thing I know, I end up having all these other things happen. I come to Secret Knock. I end up meeting people. I stand on stage. I share my story. I leave there. A month later, my whole life changed. I decided to write a book. I wrote the book. In 24 hours, I sold 144,000 copies on the YouTube channel that had grown because people were watching the content I made for one person, Matt and Gilbert. And everyone else eavesdropped and found that it was good for everyone. The idea is this: each and every one of you are specifically handcrafted by God with a talent. But in order to get that talent to go to work, you got to put in work. And the work that you put in will be good for everyone. The labor is ready. The ideal setting for me, guys, is to have a moment with you rather than a moment with a celebrity. Because here is where I get to honor that grandmother that made the journey. She came for me through sacrifice. I came to you in sacrifice. Thank you for letting me come to the ideal setting.
Thank you. All righty, wow. I don't know if I could follow that. What do you guys think? Yeah. Great. All right, guys, we're going to break out for about 15 minutes. For any of the people who just walked in, we got bathrooms right here, water bottles in the back. Those doors can open up while the fire's lit. 15 minutes, we're going to be coming back for the hot seat and getting to know each other. So open it up. Mike, can you hit the music on there? All righty, see you guys.